All right. Welcome to the Online Dating in a Pandemic World class my name is Morgan Taylor. I'm the head of adult services from Princeton Public Library, and I will be presenting this uh, program to you today. And thank you for those who voted in the poll. It looks like most of us have tried online dating in the past year. Um, 4 people have, 2 people have not. We might get a few more people who log on to the webinar as well. So thank you for sharing that. Feel free to drop any questions you have into the Q&A while I go through the presentation. So it seems that according to this data, the last date of which was updated was in 2017, more and more people are meeting online than anywhere else. So throughout the decades, most people seem to meet through friends, through school, or going out to a bar or restaurant has fluctuated over the years. And within the past decade or so, meeting people online has been the #1 way that couples have met. So before you get started in deciding what you want to do with online dating, it's important for you to know what you're looking for in a person, the type of relationship that you're looking for, and what your deal breakers are. So are there things like religion that are important to you, or how far away the person lives, potentially what their astrological sign is, anything like that that might be important to you. And then what are you willing to be open-minded about? And you should know some things about yourself. And above all, gather your patience, because online dating can be a very exhausting process for people. So there are around 2,000 dating services in North America alone. And that would also go to say that there are probably a lot of things that are very challenging about deciding where to start with finding one. So when you're figuring out what app you should use, some of the things to consider are what your goals and interests are. If you are solely using a computer, if you're going to be using an app on your phone or tablet, or both. And I always suggest that you can try a few. And I just realized I should probably give you some background about me. So I have been in and out of the online dating world for the past 3 or 4 years. And throughout that time, I have tried a variety of different apps and gone on a variety of dates with people. And I believe my total up to date is I've met 50 different people through online dating apps. So some may say that I'm an expert at this. Others may say that no one can ever be good at this. So keep that in mind. Here are some of the more popular apps that are out there. One of I think the 2 that people probably know the most are Match and Tinder. I'm going to go through some of the pros and cons of these, not all of them, but a few of these. So Bumble and Plenty of Fish, OkCupid. Actually, I think all of these function as apps. The different categories, Match, eHarmony, and Elite Singles, I think are the variety where you're creating a kind of profile and the service itself is matching you up with other people who are on it. And then the other ones function more as a type of service where it's more like swipe based, where you're developing a profile and deciding who you want to meet and speak to kind of individually. The one from this selection that was relatively new to me when I was looking at them was Kippo. And that is an app that's specifically for gamers. So it has a little bit of a different interface for those who might be interested in the gaming community. So Match is one of the oldest dating services, virtual dating services that's out there. It's been around for almost 2 decades. So Some of the pros to this are that you receive daily personalized match suggestions based on your match preferences. There are multiple search tools and ways to show your interest in someone. As I mentioned, it's been around for almost 2 decades, and you can get a free trial before paying for a subscription. This is one of the apps or services that I would say really requires you to spend money to get anything positive out of it. Um, and also the website that they use for this has a lot of features on it. So one of the cons is that it's very limited for free subscribers. For example, you can't see whether or not a member is a subscriber. So you might be sending messages back and forth to someone or trying to message somebody who can't respond back. And when you are making a profile, you have a predetermined list of interests from which to choose. So, and I believe it's something like $45 per month when you start signing up, but they have a different level where you can sign up for 3 months, 6 months, a year. And they say that 6 months is the most popular. OkCupid is almost like a hybrid between Match and some of the other dating apps. So this is a free dating service. You can pay for extra features such as like expanded use. I forget what the OkCupid like upgraded version is called. There is a lot of variety in creating your profile. So you can answer these sort of like survey questions, which gives you a match percentage with people. And then there's also a whole variety of open-ended questions that you can use when you're developing your profile. And that gives you a lot to work with when you're looking at somebody else's profile. There are inclusive identification options for gender and sexual identities. It has a pretty robust website and a user-friendly mobile app, so it works back and forth. And it's an app or service that people will consistently use. So statistically, people will come back to OkCupid in between relationships, or if they've taken breaks and come back to online dating. Some of the cons to OkCupid is that you cannot see who likes you if you don't have a paid membership. The matching system can be flawed. So the way that they develop your match percentage is based off of some of those questions that you answer, and you put what your response would be and what the ideal response from the other person would be. And it seems that the more questions that you respond to, and the more questions that another person responds to, in general, just the higher your match percentage can be. So it doesn't always really pan out to something that fully makes sense. You may come up with, you may see fake accounts on here, and there are ads that will come through when you're using the free interface, and they are not known for good customer service. So when talking to people who are not as tech savvy, who are figuring this stuff out for the first time, that's something that can be a problem. Whereas Match is supposed to have a really great customer service. This is one of the things that I really like about OkCupid is that they have this a lot of charts and a blog where they will update statistics and things. So here are some of the things that daters changed during the pandemic in their different profiles. So there's been a significant increase in the percentage of people saying that they'd like to live in many places. Religion is extremely important to them. They couldn't date someone with no long-term goals. Art is important to them. Astrological sign is important in a match. They are a coffee snob. They want their next relationship to last the rest of their lives. And they like the idea of living alone. And then some of the things that people have had a decrease in saying in their profiles is that they're a people person, that they're a morning person, that they would date someone just for sex, and that their self-confidence is very, very high. So those are just some interesting statistics that have come up since about a year ago now. And then the app known as Bumble is another free app, but You can also pay to upgrade this one. Their kind of gimmick is that women must send the message first. If it's a if you're a man looking for a woman or a woman looking for a man, the woman must message first. If it's woman looking for a woman or a man looking for a man, then anybody can send the first message. It is something that can be used for dating as well as friendships or networking, but my understanding is that the friendships and networking haven't necessarily picked up. People really go to it mainly for dating. There is a way for you to verify your photos so that that can help you to weed out fake profiles. And one of the things that I like about it, and I think more apps have changed this as well, they allow you to take a break. So you can kind of snooze your profile for a certain amount of time if you're just like, I'm not ready to keep swiping right now, or if you feel like you needed to, I don't know, meet somebody and then you wanted to see how that goes before you then go find someone else. So you can take a break for those kinds of reasons. It preserves your whole profile. It keeps all of your old matches and things like that. Some of the cons are that it might be hard to weed out for what your deal breakers are because there's just not as much information in the profile. There are only 24 hours to connect with someone. So that could be a pro or it could be a con because it prevents people from sort of going on swipe sprees and then never actually messaging. And their website interface is fairly limited. And then the last one that I'm going to give you a quick overview of is Tinder. It's, as I said earlier, one of the most popular dating apps. And the profile and interface are simple. So within like 5 minutes, you can have your profile up and be swiping. There is a free version, or their free version pretty much has everything that you need. The swiping feature, has been known as being addictive. And it now allows for video chatting, which a few of the apps have recently added in, so that while we're here in the pandemic, you can choose to chat with someone that way without having to switch to a new app, give them any of your other personal information. Some of the cons are that it has a reputation as a hookup app. You'll generally find limited information in the profiles just because there's not a lot for you to include in there. And there are some people who will use this app just to find their social media followers. So they'll include like their Instagram information, or you might get pranks. So I've heard of people who, once they start messaging with somebody, they just want them to Venmo them money and things like that. And then I will also mention that there are a variety of dating apps out there specifically for people who are looking to date within their religion. So two of the most popular examples of that are Christian Mingle and JDate, which is for people of the Jewish faith. So when you are making your profile, any app will walk you through setting up your profile. And there are usually ways to embellish it further once you've gotten started. And some of the typical things that they want to know from you are your birthday, your gender, the genders that you're interested in, any age range that you're interested in, and of course, a description about you. I will mention here that you want to be as honest as possible when you're setting up your profile, because within the apps, you usually cannot change your birthday. So some people will include like a different birth year because they think that it's going to use their information in some way, but it's really important for you to be honest there because then you can't change it later. I have a question in the chat that I just saw. How does eHarmony compare to those discussed in the presentation? So I would say that eHarmony is more similar to the Match website. It's something that they want you to set up a full profile. They will kind of run statistics and match you with people. It's another one of the ones that they want you to spend a little bit more money on. I know that they've been doing a lot more advertising recently. I think that Match towards the beginning of the year or end of last year, we're doing a lot more advertising as well. One of the things that I will say about making decisions about what apps you want to use is give a try with anybody's free trial, temporary free trial, to see if you like the interface and if there are people on it that make sense to you that you feel like you could meet somebody with. Um, and you can try a few different ones until you really find something that feels comfortable to you or matches what you're looking for. So when you are setting up your profile, as I mentioned before, it is very important to be honest. Have a compelling first line and last line. So that's for when you're, this is for when you're putting in information about yourself. So generally, if people are skimming, they're looking quickly. That's why you want to have a compelling first and last line. So it gives them something to really notice when they're reading through. Provide details when you're writing things down. So if you like hiking, you can share about where you like to go hiking. Or if you are a fan of reading books, which is always my go-to, talk about what genres you like to read or how many books you read last year, or something like that. You can also consider including activities and interests that someone can picture enjoying with you, because that gives kind of an extra element when trying to make a connection with someone. Definitely make sure that you proofread, and it also can help to ask someone else to look over your profile. So whether it's a friend or a member of the sex that you're interested in, so that they can just kind of give you their feedback, that can be very helpful. And then some of the things that you don't want to do are write a novel or overshare. So people don't need your entire life story. They just need to know a few important things that they can connect with you about. Don't talk about dating. So people don't want to know about like how horrible recent dates have been. They don't want to know how long you've been out of the game. So if you're recently divorced or separated or things like that, it's okay for you to mention that if it's important to you, but talking about like the world of dating is definitely a no. Don't project negativity when creating a profile. So talking about things that you hate or how frustrated you are with the world or things like that, it can have a very bad resonance with someone when they're looking at your profile. And make sure, like I said previously, don't have any typos or errors. Here are some examples from a while ago of screenshots that I had from different people's dating profiles. So I can go through why each of these is a bad example of a profile. So message me, because you can never really get a feel for someone through one blurb. The whole point in having a profile is to write something about yourself. So at least put something in there. Right below that, I'm really good at a lot. Favorite books, movies, shows, music, and food. Too many to name. Feel free to ask though. They have typos there, and they're also not giving any information at all. So it's almost like, why even answer those questions? And then over on the right, you'll see some of the things that they like, but then they dislike cats and annoying people, and say, I work a lot, but I'm looking for someone to spend my free time with. So there's, like I mentioned previously, you don't want to include things that you dislike or talk about people being annoying. Like everyone likes annoying people. That's unnecessary to include. And then when you say that you work a lot, that's something that can come across as, I don't have time for you, or it's going to be difficult to get to know me. So those are things that you should also take into consideration when making a profile. Another fun fact from OkCupid is that almost 3 million daters said that they could not date someone with strong opposing political views. So in knowing what your deal breakers are, for some people, that is a very important one. Here are some tips for including photos in your profile. So each of the different apps will give you a different amount of photos that you can include. Usually it's anywhere from like 8 to 15. For some apps, it's even more than that. You really don't need 15. That seems excessive to me, but you want to make sure that you have a minimum of 3, but maybe up to 8 or whatever the maximum is. It's up to you if there are pictures that you really like that you would like to include. Some of the things that I would say are really important are to only use current photos, ideally from the past year or two. One of the articles that I was reading recently was saying that with the pandemic, since people haven't been going out as much, to have their profile be more current, there have been an increase in selfies being used in dating profiles, which is totally fine. People like selfies as long as they show your face and they're an attractive photo. Those are fine. Make sure that your photos are not blurry. Include a variety of photos. So the 3 things that are generally important, my kind of standard 3, are having a picture of your face, having a picture of your full body, and then an activity or an action shot. You want to be careful about group photos because in a group photo, it can be hard to decipher which person you are. Avoid pictures angled from below because those can be unflattering. Crop your images as necessary. So sometimes there are things like in the background that don't need to be included. Some people take mirror selfies and you can see their toilet, which is kind of icky. You don't really need that. So that's something that's croppable. If there are any people that show up in your photos that you don't want to be in there, you can crop them out of your picture. Most regular apps on your phone will allow you to crop those fairly easily. Pictures with pets are a plus. People love seeing animals. And also make sure that you are smiling. Here are some examples for you of what I would consider bad pictures to include in your profile. So in the top left, even though it is an activity picture and I can tell that the person whose profile this would be included in likes to be active, I have no idea which person they are. And if all of their pictures were group pictures, I would continue to have no idea what they are. In the second image in the middle, it's a picture of someone reading to a child. Generally, a rule of thumb is that if you don't have any children, you shouldn't include children in your pictures because it's very confusing for people. They don't know if that's your kid or not. It causes some weird questions. So better to leave other people's children out. The picture to the right, you may recognize as Nicolas Cage, but it is a heavily filtered photo. So he looks much younger and perhaps prettier than he usually does because of the filters. That's something that generally people find very deceiving. You don't want to have all of your pictures or really any of your pictures heavily filtered so that it distorts what you really look like. On the bottom left, we have Dolly Parton and Eddie Murphy in some very old pictures. So you do want to make sure that your pictures are current and from within the past 2 years so that people really know what they're coming into. And then in the bottom, you'll see a picture of a car, which is something that a certain type of man seems to include car photos in their profile, but it's not really necessary because it's not a picture of you. And if someone's very interested in your car, they will see it eventually. Generally, pictures of objects or other things are not of great importance in your profile. Something that generally people can get kind of hung up on in including pictures in their profile is that it can feel kind of, what's the word I want to use? It's kind of a challenge because people are like, well, is it shallow to judge a person based on their pictures or something like that? But if you take into consideration that when you're meeting people in person, out and about, you're going to be noticing what they look like first. It's the first thing anyone notices is how somebody appears. And your level of attraction to someone is very important. So don't look at this as a shallow process. You do want to put your best foot forward. And if you're not attracted to somebody, you're not attracted to somebody, but it's not, it doesn't make you shallow and things like this. Some people have different preferences and that's totally fine. And then here are some examples of what I would consider good photos that people could include in their profile. So these all have pretty good lighting, so you can really see the person in the picture. There's a variety of people who are doing an activity that they love, including there's a pet photo, there's a running photo. It's good to have a smiling picture. Selfies are fine, full body pictures. So these are all positive examples. Most of them are stock photos, so keep that in mind too, but gives you kind of a good idea for what is a good thing to include in your profile. These are some screenshots from Bumble, so that once you have your profile set up, you can look at what it looks like for setting filters up. So they will give you an opportunity. Usually you have to edit this a little bit once you've finished creating your profile. So with the filters, you can determine if you're interested in men, women, or everyone. That varies, the genders vary in the different dating apps. For ages, you can choose the age range that you are interested in. They usually create just a general ballpark for you. So I think I put in that I was 30, so it gave ages 24 to 34. But that's something that you can make a much wider window, a much narrower window. It's absolutely up to you. The distance of how far away people are. So if you're willing to travel further away, or maybe you live someplace that's kind of close to a border to somewhere else, and you want to minimize, getting people who are like across a bay from you or something like that, you can make it smaller. And then they also have advanced filters. So with OkCupid, with Bumble, they give you the option to include 2 free filters, and then any further ones that you would need to kind of upgrade your profile to get to. So if it's, this allows you to choose what some of those deal breakers might be, or some of the things that might be really important. So height, do they exercise? What's their star sign? What's their education? Do they drink? Do they smoke? Do they have pets? What's your date looking for? If they have or want children, religion, and politics. And then you can also include the age or the distance as deal breakers too. Otherwise, it'll include things that are a little bit different from that. I will mention that sometimes setting up those filters can be a barrier, because if someone doesn't have their profile completely filled out, you might not see anyone. Let's say that you will only date somebody who has dogs, and you include that filter. If someone didn't put into their profile that they have dogs, you might not see them at all, because it's only showing you people who mark that they do have dogs. And this looks a little bit different from each of the apps or the services, but I just wanted to share that screenshot. And then once you've been on and you've started messaging people, some of the things that are valuable are to, in your opening message, talk about something that you've read or in their profile or noticed. So you want to make sure that you don't talk about looks at this point. When looking at people's profiles, that's the first thing everyone's going to notice. If you decided to swipe right or match with them, they obviously know that you're already attracted to them, so focus on something different. If they mention that they love to read, ask what they're reading right now. So base it off of something that you've looked at. Not everyone converses with the same frequency. So there might be some people who won't send chat messages during the workday. There might be some people who are generally just like slower at responding. So keep that in mind. Ask questions and learn things about the person. The whole object is getting to know somebody. And know that it's okay to move on, but be courteous about it. So if you decide that you're not interested in somebody anymore, even if it feels kind of icky to be like, hey, I'm not really interested in you anymore, people would rather hear that from you than be ghosted. And if you're not familiar with the term ghosted, it's when you've been talking with somebody and then suddenly they just disappear and never respond to you again. And then don't get discouraged if you lose touch with people. So people's lives change. Some people end up deleting their apps or things like that. So don't take those kinds of things personally, and just know that that's all part of the process. In OkCupid's different statistics, they mentioned that 85% of daters say that music has a big influence on their lives. So that is absolutely a great conversation to have with someone when you're trying to get to know them, to share about your different musical interests. There are a lot of different frequently asked questions out there, like, is it okay to start to give somebody my phone number, or when should I move from just messaging somebody to going out on a date with them? And to this, I always say, whatever you're comfortable with. So if you feel comfortable that you've been talking to somebody long enough and you want to meet them, that is absolutely your call. There's no magical number. It's all up to what your comfort level is. So before you meet somebody, you want to discuss some of the important things, which include what you're looking for in a partner, what some of your deal breakers are, and have the COVID conversation. So make sure that you determine what their comfort level is and what your comfort level is. That might just mean that you want to meet them outside with masks on. Some people may be willing to meet you inside in a cafe or something where you can have drinks, but it's important to kind of know those things in advance. You can try out a phone call and see if you have a good kind of vibe with them just in a regular conversation. There is no shame in what they call internet stalking. So if you choose to Google somebody or look at their social media or whatever that is before you go out and meet them in person, that's totally fine. And they never have to know. If it makes you feel safe, do it. And also consider a video call virtual date. So as I mentioned earlier, some of the different apps now allow you to do that directly in them, or you can meet with somebody on Zoom or some other way. Just bear in mind that if something that's important to you is keeping your last name private for the time being, that might be different on different apps. Some people don't want to share their phone numbers, so it's just up to what your privacy concerns and levels are. Here are some of the favorite virtual dates between women and men. So for men, dinner or drinks is the most popular of their virtual activities. For women, it seems to be a shared activity. And then after that, for both groups, would be video chat. And then movie or TV show is at the bottom for most people, because generally you're not really going to get to know somebody very well if your focus is on a movie or a show versus on the other person. When you're ready to go on a date, it's important to choose a public place and tell a friend where you're going. I have a few friends who I will text regularly and kind of give them an info dump. I'm meeting this person, this is their name, we're going to this place at this time. If you want them to check in with you, that's something that you can also say, like, if you don't hear back from me by 10 o'clock, just give me a call or send me a message. In that way, they can just be like, hey, are you okay? Are you having fun? You know, it's a security measure, but also can be a good escape route if you feel like you're kind of stuck with someone someplace. And I like to include whatever information I know. So they work at this place or something like that, you know, all for safety reasons. When deciding where to go on your date, consider an option where you can really talk to someone. So If you've been out of the dating game for a while, dinner and a movie is generally not a great option for a first date because you don't have a lot of face-to-face time to talk to them. With bowling, also something where like you're getting up to go bowl, they're sitting down, and then they're getting up to go bowl and you're sitting down. So you're not spending a lot of time really getting to know each other. Play it safe for the first date. So do something very simple. Go get coffee, get drinks, take a walk someplace, and save something that's kind of more fun and interesting for a second date once you're sure you can stand to be in the same place as another person. Because if your date ends up being someone that you're not interested in, if they're a dud, you don't want to be kind of stuck with them doing something. I will also say that making sure that even if you're in a public place, make sure that it's a public place where there are other people around. So you might not want to go for a hike or something on a first date if you're going to be on a trail by yourself, or go for like a jog if that's something that you're interested in. Make sure that you're going to keep it to kind of main roads and not do it through the woods or something, all based off of safety reasons. And then end the date in a way that you find comfortable. So some people choose to set a timeline for ending their date, like I have to be out of here by noon because I have to go pick up my cat from the vet or something. Don't make up a reason, give them a better reason, a valid reason, not like you have to go wash your hair. And then physical contact is up to both of you, and consent is really important. So if you're interested in ending the date with a kiss and you're comfortable with that, people generally think it's really sweet if you ask. If you want to hug goodbye, that's okay. Handshake, but also being that we're in a pandemic, it's based off of comfort level. So that may be something you've discussed previously, and it is up to both of you to figure out what makes sense. Here are some of the statistics about what irritate people on a first date. The top of which is texting or being on the phone. So that can be really distracting for people. It makes them feel like you're not engaged and interested in them or what they're doing. And using intentionally misleading photos on a dating profile. So as I mentioned, avoid using old pictures or pictures that don't really show a good image of who you are, because it's not going to leave a good impression if they think that you're one way and then they see you and you're something different. And to kind of end the presentation, I have a quote from Aziz Ansari in his book, Modern Romance. With so many romantic options, instead of trying to explore them all, make sure you properly invest in people and give them a fair chance before moving on to the next one. So bear in mind that when you are trying out the different dating apps and exploring things, it can be really easy to just kind of fall right back into the swiping cycle. But while you are getting to know somebody, you really do want, like, the point of being on an app is to find somebody to spend your time with. So make sure that you are giving a chance to the people that you speak to, or at least giving an explanation to people if you choose not to speak to them anymore. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. If there's anything that you feel like you wanted to follow up with me about, maybe separately, my email address is right there. So any questions that I can help you with? If you have any dating stories you want to share, positive or negative, you can feel free to drop those in the chat as well. Do any sites have better or worse reputations for women dating women? I would say I don't know of any specific women and women relationship apps. For example, like I know one of the apps for men dating men, Grindr, is a popular option, but for women dating women, I think that it's generally I don't know of any that have specific reputations. I would venture to say OkCupid would be a great option just because I think that they're a more open-minded and kind of in-depth site. And how do we avoid imposters? So that's something that can be very tricky to figure out. One of the things is to when you're getting to know somebody and chatting with them, use a little bit of common sense. So if they start asking you any questions that you don't feel comfortable answering, or things that are kind of security risks, those are things that you want to avoid. Some of the apps have something called a verified profile. I think Tinder has actually started doing it as well. I know that Bumble does it. So they have something where they will have a picture that they want you to imitate, and then that's how they verify it, to make sure that your picture looks like you and that your picture looks like the image they want you to imitate. And then a little checkbox will show up in the bottom corner of your profile picture, and then people will know that you're a legitimate person. But other than that, one of the things that I generally try to do, which not everybody is comfortable with, but I will move off of a dating app into texting, and then I'll ask them, like, can you send me a picture of yourself working today, or something like that, so that I have an opportunity to see a photo of them. Or you can use the video chat option within an app if you're concerned about that as well. So there are a couple of ways, but it can also be kind of tricky. I've definitely made mistakes where I've shared like my Snapchat information with somebody, and then realized that they were sending me only pictures of like objects, but never any pictures of their face. And I didn't realize until kind of afterwards. So some of those are just things that you need to take into consideration. Any other questions that I can help answer? All right, well, I'll hang out for a few more minutes in case there's anything that does come up. But if not, thanks for coming today. As I said, my email is here on the screen. So if you have a question that maybe pops up later, feel free to send me an email. And if nothing else, good luck out there.